After slaying the guardian of the great gods, Lu Fan stood silently amidst the ruins, his cold gaze fixed straight ahead. Even the air felt heavy, as if the battlefield still trembled in fear of the power he had just unleashed. Behind him, the mighty star dragon surged forward instantly, its massive wings slicing through the sky as it followed its master without a moment's hesitation. Witnessing what had just transpired, Ji Yan was left utterly dumbfounded. His eyes widened in sheer disbelief. He had never imagined that Lu Fan could obliterate such a formidable entity with a single strike. After a long silence, Ji Yan finally spoke in a trembling voice. "Lu Fan, did you clear out that hidden stronghold before we even arrived? Was that the same monster you encountered back then? Or have you not yet found the secret entrance?" Lu Fan remained composed. There was no trace of pride on his face, only a deep, distant gravity. "That creature," he said softly, "is the shadow guardian of the ancient god." For a brief moment, memories of the past flashed before his eyes. The first time I met it, I had just joined the Griffin Corps. Hearing Lu Fan speak about it so casually, Ji Han was completely stunned. Since Lu Fan had already established contact with the ancient god, even grandfather treated him with immense respect. Realizing this, Ji Han immediately jumped down from his three-legged crow, his expression filled with shock and disbelief. But at that very moment, the shadow dragon began to regenerate once again. Within seconds, the terrifying creature came back to life completely and surrounded Lu Fan from every direction. Its severed limbs and shattered cells started reconnecting rapidly. Earlier, Lu Fan had sliced the monster into countless pieces, yet now those scattered fragments slowly crawled back together as if they possessed a life of their own. A suffocating darkness spread across the surroundings. An overwhelming pressure descended from the sky, heavy enough to make breathing difficult. Just as expected, the shadow dragon was reviving once again. And this was already its third resurrection. However, at that exact moment, the poison dragon revealed its terrifying world-level ability. A deadly poisonous slime spread through the battlefield. A horrifying power capable of reducing any target's defensive capability by 50% for 10 full seconds. The instant the skill activated, the toxic slime exploded outward and completely engulfed the divine guardian. At the same time, the star dragon moved. Without hesitation, it unleashed its most feared technique. Stormy Prison. In an instant, a devastating icy storm swallowed the entire area. Freezing winds roared violently across the battlefield before crashing directly into the shadow dragon like a natural disaster. But the battle was far from over. Amid the raging storm, the shadow dragon activated another terrifying ability, Shadow Burst. Countless dark blades erupted through the air. The moment those shadow blades were released, everything in their path was torn apart instantly. The shadows themselves shattered into pieces mid-air. Bodies broke apart before they could even react, and fragments rained down onto the ground like falling debris. Watching this overwhelming battle, Ji Han was completely speechless. His heart trembled as he stared at Lu Fan. I was risking my life in this battle. But Lu Fan, he's handling this entire situation as if it were effortless. The moment the shadow dragon reconstructed itself for the fourth time, the star dragon finally unleashed its ultimate authority, the power of judgment. A terrifying beam of energy pierced through the battlefield like divine punishment itself. The attack tore straight through the target, ignoring even 50% of its remaining defense. And then within only a few seconds, blood burst violently from the shadow dragon's body before it collapsed heavily onto the ground. Ji Han stood frozen in disbelief. It was dead. Truly dead. He could hardly understand what he had just witnessed. How did it end so easily? But suddenly, the shadow dragon's shattered body began reconnecting once again. For the fifth time, just as Lu Fan had predicted earlier, every resurrection weakened its physical strength. This time, after reviving, the once terrifying monster had become drastically smaller. Its massive dragon form was now barely larger than a tiny rat. The instant it stood up again, Lu Fan gave no reaction at all. Instead, his star dragon immediately charged forward. At this point, the shadow dragon no longer looked like a legendary monster. It looked pitiful. The star dragon rushed after it for a short distance, almost as if it were mocking the creature before casually crushing it beneath its enormous claw. Silence covered the battlefield. Lu Fan and Ji Han simply stood there, watching everything unfold before their eyes. Then, suddenly, a notification appeared from the system. The ancient god's shadow guardian has been eliminated. And the moment the guardian finally disappeared, a piece of black cloth suddenly materialized in the air before them. Turning back, Lu Fan calmly said to Ji Yan, "When this creature is truly killed, it leaves behind its shed skin. Take it with you for research. It may help us discover a way to deal with the ancient gods." Ji Yan stepped forward slowly before letting out a defeated sigh. "Second uncle and grandfather were right. It really is you." He lowered his head slightly. "You really are incredible." But beneath that calm voice, rage burned deep inside him. His fists clenched tightly as humiliation slowly consumed him from within. After a brief silence, Ji Yan suddenly made a strange request. "Lu Fan, can you show me how many beasts you've killed?" Lu Fan did not answer with words. Instead, he silently revealed a glowing badge. 304201. The moment Ji Yan saw those numbers, his expression froze completely. More than 300,000 beasts killed. His breathing grew heavy. No wonder. Has he already reached level 90? Compared to that overwhelming number, Ji Yan suddenly felt painfully insignificant. After all, he himself had only managed to kill 6,113 beasts. At that moment, Ji Yan finally understood something. This was not merely a defeat. It was a crushing humiliation. A gap so enormous that he could not even see a way to surpass it. After silently accepting his loss, Ji Yan took out an extraordinary ring and tossed it toward Lu Fan. As soon as Ji Yan handed over the ring, a bitter thought surfaced deep within his heart. Only someone with power like this, only someone capable of standing above monsters, gods, and death itself, was truly worthy of the title, the Protector of the Crows. And now even he had finally accepted that truth. Lu Fan caught the ring calmly in his hand before glancing at it quietly. "This is truly priceless," Lu Fan said softly. "We had already reached the same conclusion about this matter." Ji Yan gave a faint smile filled with exhaustion. "To be honest, this ring belongs to the three-legged crow. The fact that it possesses such extraordinary quality is proof enough of its importance." His gaze slowly lowered toward the battlefield behind them. "If you hadn't appeared today, this ring would have remained on my corpse, and I would already be dead." For a brief moment, silence surrounded the two of them. Then Ji Yan continued, "Besides, I am second uncle's successor. I place my trust in strategy and leadership, not in a single magical artifact." He paused before looking directly into Lu Fan's eyes. "But you are the flame of the Dragon Nation." His voice became heavier with every word. "It is your destiny to stand against the ancient gods." Lu Fan remained silent. He simply stood there quietly, listening to every word Ji Yan spoke as the cold wind swept across the ruined battlefield around them. Ji Yan continued in a calm but serious voice. "My grandfather gave this ring to me, but its true value can only be proven in your hands on the battlefield." A faint smile appeared on Lu Fan's face. "All right then," he replied softly. "I'll accept it." Without hesitation, he placed the ring onto his finger and slowly raised his hand into the air. The moment he did, a brilliant light burst outward in every direction. The entire area was instantly illuminated by an overwhelming golden radiance. This truly is a life-saving artifact. A treasure capable of protecting its owner from countless dangers, Lu Fan thought silently to himself. Then suddenly, the ring erupted with power. A deafening wave of energy spread across the battlefield as the legendary three-legged crow finally appeared. But the instant the creature manifested, even Lu Fan was stunned. The SS Crow had completely acknowledged him as its new master. And this was the legendary Golden Crow. "I've worn this ring for so long," Ji-Yan murmured quietly, "yet I was never truly able to control it." High above the sky, the three-legged Golden Crow spread its enormous wings and soared through the air while terrifying flames burned around its body like a miniature sun. Then it attacked. Boom! A violent explosion shook the entire area as the rocky entrance ahead shattered apart instantly. Seeing this scene, Ji-Han was once again overwhelmed with shock. At that moment, he realized something terrifying. What? This Golden Crow looked exactly like his grandfather's legendary beast. Elder Zhou's ring is unbelievably powerful. The Golden Crow summoned by it possesses strength comparable to Tao Ji after reaching his third advancement. The battlefield slowly fell silent once again. Then, after a few moments, a blazing fire suddenly appeared at the entrance ahead. The Shadow Dragon was finally dead. Completely dead. And the ring that Ji-Han had handed over to Lu Fan as the price of his defeat was no ordinary treasure. Whoever possessed that ring could command the legendary three-legged crow as they pleased. Lu Fan quickly realized that this was exactly the kind of terrifying authority one would expect from a high-ranking divine artifact. However, this was not the time to think about rewards. Right now, the most important matter was the fourth phase, and he needed to focus all of his attention on it. At that moment, Lu Fan's eyes shifted toward Ji-Yan. His condition looked terrible. Although he had survived the battle, he had still suffered several injuries. Small cuts and wounds covered his face, and his exhausted expression made it clear how close he had come to death. Without hesitation, Lu Fan immediately gave an order. "Heal him at once." The instant she heard the command, Xiaofei rushed forward and activated two powerful support abilities, Source of Life and Emerald Light. A soft green radiance instantly spread across the battlefield. These two abilities continuously restored the life force of every ally nearby, steadily recovering their health points with each passing second. At the same time, the Emerald Blessing formed multiple layers of protection around them, cleansing all negative effects while increasing every attribute by 30%. And with every additional layer that accumulated, the damage they received became weaker and weaker. In the very next moment, Ji-Han was completely healed. He stared at his own body in disbelief. Not only had every wound disappeared, but the power flowing through him now felt far stronger than before. His injuries were gone completely, and even his physical strength had nearly doubled. "Unbelievable," Ji-Han said immediately. "I've fought alongside many level 100 warriors from the Empire, but none of them possess healing abilities powerful enough to compare to hers." His eyes shifted toward Xiaofei with genuine amazement. But soon, the excitement faded from his expression. "There's just one unfortunate thing," he said quietly. "We still haven't figured out why the Shadow Guardian came here in the first place." His voice grew heavier. "If we could solve that mystery, the pressure on the front lines would decrease tremendously." Lu Fan listened carefully before answering in a calm tone. "Once I complete my 4th stage promotion, I'll return." He looked toward the dark horizon ahead. "And when I do, we'll destroy this entire place together." Ji-Han suddenly froze for a moment before smiling. "You're already level 90? The thought alone shocked him. "So those 300,000 undead puppets you killed, all of that experience was enough to push you past the limit?" He laughed softly in disbelief. "Brother, that amount of experience points is absurd." Then he nodded. The timing is perfect anyway. I need to report back to the outpost, so let's head there together. The two of them slowly began moving forward through the ruined battlefield. But suddenly, a monster appeared directly in their path. Without even slowing down, Jihan raised one hand and created a blazing sphere of fire. The next second, he launched it forward. Boom! The creature instantly turned into ashes. By eliminating wandering creatures like these, Jihan explained calmly, we make things much easier for the soldiers on the front line. Lu Fan glanced at him quietly and smiled inwardly. As expected, Elder Khan trained him well. He truly is impressive. However, before they could continue any farther, an even larger swarm of monsters suddenly appeared in the distance. The ground itself began trembling. At that moment, Lu Fan snapped his fingers. Instantly, all of his dragons appeared at once. Massive shadows filled the sky as countless dragons manifested overhead, radiating terrifying powers. Seeing that scene, Jihan widened his eyes in shock. Whoa, brother! That's an insane number of dragons. Lu Fan answered calmly. I'll help you clear this swarm. The next moment, every dragon moved in perfect coordination. The fire dragon created massive fireballs. The star dragon unleashed devastating lightning strikes. And the remaining dragons released their own terrifying powers one after another. Within moments, the entire monster horde was annihilated completely. Silence returned to the battlefield once again. After a brief pause, Jihan finally spoke. I'm heading toward the front lines. Then he looked back at Lu Fan. I'll wait for your return. And when you come back, we'll wipe out every one of these strongholds together. Lu Fan gave a small nod. All right. Now Lu Fan needed to return to the far north to reunite with his friends. For the first time in a long while, his heart felt light. He was filled with excitement and happiness, and yet deep inside, he still worried about how everyone had been surviving in his absence. After traveling for some time, Lu Fan finally arrived near his companion's camp. A small fire burned quietly in the cold darkness while everyone sat around it in silence. The atmosphere felt heavy. They had all been desperately worried about Lu Fan, but the moment they sensed a familiar presence approaching from the distance, every single person froze. Someone had returned, and they immediately realized who it was. Lu Fan was back. The moment they saw Lu Fan standing there safely, everyone's eyes widened with shock and relief. Smiling softly, Lu Fan looked at them and joked, "What's with those expressions? You guys only went a few days without seeing me." Then he glanced around at their exhausted faces. "And why do all of you look so tired?" But instead of answering, everyone suddenly rushed toward him. To them it felt as though Lu Fan had returned from the gates of death itself. One after another they tightly hugged him, unable to hold back their emotions any longer. Some of them even began crying. "Lu Fan, you have no idea how painful these past days have been for us." Their voices trembled with relief and emotion as each person embraced him in turn. Lu Fan's expression softened slightly. "I heard you've all been waiting here for 2 days and 1 night," he said quietly. "So I came back specially to check on all of you." Then suddenly Aunt Han hurried forward. Ever since the beginning, she had always worried about Lu Fan more than anyone else. She grabbed him tightly by the shoulders, her eyes filled with panic and concern. "Hurry, Fan! Let me look at you properly!" Her voice shook slightly. "I need to make sure you're not hurt anywhere." "Without you, Lu Fan, everything became painfully slow and exhausting," one of them said emotionally. "There were several moments when we barely escaped death." Then Uncle Han stepped forward with a relieved smile. "Hey, Lu Fan, seeing you return safely makes all of us incredibly happy." Lu Fan smiled calmly in response. But then he suddenly said something that completely stunned everyone present. "As soon as I complete my 4th advancement level," he said confidently, "I'll take all of you to the Slaughter the Beast Tide zone." He looked at every one of them before continuing. "Just give me 3 days. In those 3 days, I'll raise every single one of you to level 90. Silence. Absolute silence filled the camp. For a moment, nobody could even process what they had just heard. Then suddenly, "What? Lufan, are you serious? Did you really just say that?" Everyone exploded into shock at the same time. Even Jia Yang was left speechless after hearing those words. Her beautiful eyes widened as she stared directly at Lufan. "I never imagined," she said slowly, still struggling to believe it, "that you were already so close to reaching the 4th advancement level." Then she paused briefly before giving a bitter smile. "No, actually, it feels like you've already reached it." Hearing this, Uncle Han was completely stunned. The atmosphere around the camp instantly became tense once again. At that moment, Senior Sister suddenly looked toward Lufan. A faint smile appeared on her face, but there was a strange seriousness hidden behind it. "Lufan," she said softly, "come outside with me. I need to talk to you." Then her expression darkened slightly. "I have some bad news." Seeing how serious she looked, Lufan immediately followed her out of the camp. Cold wind blew quietly through the dark night as the two of them stopped a short distance away from the others. After remaining silent for a moment, Senior Sister finally spoke. "Lufan, passing the 4th class at school won't be easy." Her voice carried an unusual weight. "To successfully advance beyond the 4th stage, you'll need extremely special resources. And not only that, you'll also require guidance from a true expert if you want to ensure your success." Hearing this, Lufan was visibly surprised. For the first time in a while, uncertainty appeared in his eyes. "In that case," he asked seriously, "who can help me?" Senior Sister looked at him quietly before answering in a calm voice. "Don't worry." A faint smile returned to her face. "I'll introduce you to someone capable of helping you." Lufan looked at Senior Sister with surprise. "Who exactly is this person that can help me?" he asked. Senior Sister answered calmly. "There's someone capable of helping you advance further." Then she added quietly, "And honestly, this will benefit you greatly as well." For a brief moment, Lufan fell silent in confusion. But soon, a faint smile appeared on his face. "So we came all the way out here just to say this?" he asked teasingly. Hearing that, Senior Sister suddenly laughed softly. "If I hadn't said it that way," she replied with a playful smile, "how else could I convince you to come out here alone with me?" The cold night air carried their quiet laughter as the two of them slowly began walking side by side through the darkness. After a short silence, Senior Sister continued explaining the situation. "We'll go look for him tomorrow. After that, we'll head to the Capital Academy." Her expression turned serious again. "Because there's a high chance we'll find him there." The next morning inside Dragon Capital Academy, Lufan walked side by side with Senior Sister through a quiet pathway surrounded by ancient buildings and tall stone walls. As he listened to her speak, Lufan silently observed the unfamiliar scenery around him. "This place feels strangely unfamiliar. I never expected the academy to have an area like this." The atmosphere here was completely different from the lively sections of the academy he had seen before. It felt older, quieter, almost hidden from the outside world. Then suddenly, Senior Sister stopped walking and smiled faintly. "We're here." Lufan looked around in confusion. "Senior Sister, where exactly have we arrived? Are you seriously not going to explain this place first?" As if reading his thoughts, she let out a soft laugh before answering, "This is the place. Come inside and you'll understand everything soon enough." Then her expression became slightly more respectful. "This is the residence of Professor Boyang. He is the Academy's greatest expert in array formations." Her voice carried clear admiration as she continued. "He personally supervised my 4th rank promotion, and anyone who advances under his guidance eventually gains a far deeper understanding of their own field." After listening to Senior Sister, Lufan began wondering what kind of person this professor truly was. A short while later, the two of them arrived in front of the professor's residence. Senior Sister gently knocked on the door. From inside, an old voice responded. "Who is it?" Senior Sister answered respectfully, "Professor, I brought someone to meet you." But unexpectedly, a strange reply came from inside the room. "Come in alone. The person you brought can wait outside." Hearing that, senior sister simply smiled faintly before glancing toward Lu Fan and walking inside alone. Meanwhile, Lu Fan remained standing outside the door. He found the situation slightly strange. Being stopped at the entrance without even receiving permission to enter felt unusual to him. Leaning quietly against a nearby wall, Lu Fan waited there silently while lost in thought. After some time, the door finally opened again. Senior sister stepped outside. It looked as though she wanted to say something important, but instead of speaking immediately, she simply handed Lu Fan a small box. Lu Fan frowned slightly. "What happened?" he asked. "Tell me." Senior sister explained calmly. "Professor Ouyang said that before you can complete your 4th advancement level, you first need to gather these required materials." Lu Fan opened the box and discovered a long, detailed list inside. His eyes narrowed slightly in surprise. "Oh, a lot of these items are specially marked." As he continued reading, one particular name immediately caught his attention. "Abyssal Crystal." He slowly read the description aloud. "It can only be found deep inside the Abyssal Rift, a massive chasm located exactly between the borders of the Dragon Nation and the Southern Nation." Then his gaze moved lower on the list. "There's also a strike rift there." Senior sister looked at him curiously. "Lu Fan, have you never heard of this place before?" Lu Fan raised his head slightly. "Is it famous?" Senior sister nodded before explaining seriously. "A long and narrow abyss stretches across the border between the two nations. And hidden throughout that rift are countless secret dungeon entrances." Her voice became quieter. "Those dungeons are buried at the very bottom of the chasm. Without a proper guide, finding them is nearly impossible." Senior sister continued explaining in a serious tone. "Most people who enter that place searching for materials end up failing completely. They either return empty-handed, or they never return at all." Her expression darkened slightly as she spoke about the region. And outside the secret zone, the situation is even worse. For years, the factions of both nations have been fighting endlessly over the rights to use those territories. She paused briefly before adding, "The area surrounding the South Black region has long since become a lawless zone." After listening carefully, Lu Fan calmly gave his answer. "All right, I'll go there." However, senior sister immediately warned him again. "Be extremely careful of the local gangs operating there." Her voice carried genuine concern. "As the chief administrator, I have to remain stationed at the security outpost." Then she looked directly at him. "And don't worry about me. Just tell my aunt and the others that once my work here is finished, I'll join all of you afterward." After saying those words, the two quietly parted ways and headed in different directions. Without wasting any time, Lu Fan immediately opened a portal. Using its power, he traveled across an enormous distance and arrived near the borders of Longon Province later that same afternoon. The scenery there felt completely different from everything he had seen before. Everywhere he looked, the land appeared barren and lifeless. Signs of drought, famine, and endless suffering stretched across every direction. At that moment, Lu Fan suddenly felt the urge to summon the Shadow Dragon King. The instant he called for it, the enormous creature appeared before him immediately. After carefully observing his surroundings, Lu Fan immediately sensed danger in the area. Without hesitation, he summoned his dragon to ensure his safety. Then, hoping to determine whether anyone actually lived nearby, he began walking deeper into the barren region. But before long, he discovered a group of people violently attacking several unfortunate travelers while looting everything they possessed. These men were natives of the rough wastelands bordering Longnan Province, criminals who survived inside the massive ravines stretching beyond the borderlands. One of them suddenly mocked loudly. "That so-called Dragon Nation gang from the Southern Black Zone is complete trash." Another burst into laughter and replied, "And those idiots still dare compete with us for control over the Abyss Rift. How ridiculous!" At that exact moment, Lu Fan stepped into view. After hearing their conversation, he calmly muttered, "So, this is the group Senior Sister warned me about. The instant the bandits noticed him, all of them shouted at once, "Hey! How is that guy still alive? We thought we killed everyone already. Forget it, let's finish him quickly." But Lu Fan had already prepared himself for battle. His cold eyes narrowed slightly as he immediately gave a command to his dragon. In a dangerous voice, he said, "You fools! You're the ones inviting death." The next instant, the dragon activated a blood-based ability known as Shadow Corruption. Sharp blades formed from frozen blood instantly began spinning violently through the air. Within moments, the entire group was torn apart. Some lost their heads instantly. Others had their limbs severed before they could even scream. Blood splattered across the barren ground as the bandits were slaughtered mercilessly. After wiping them out, the dragon stood tall and majestic amidst the carnage. The surviving onlookers stared at the enormous creature in absolute terror. "My God! That's a gigantic dragon!" But only moments later, the dragon killed them as well. Silence returned once again. Then suddenly, the pressure in the air began to rise. A powerful wind swept across the battlefield, and from above, a red-haired girl appeared while standing atop a massive floating blade. At the same time, the system identified her immediately. Kongji, leader of the Heavenly Dragon Legion. The moment Kongji, the leader of the Jing clan, appeared before them, panic immediately swept through the crowd. Chaos erupted on all sides. "The monster has arrived, and she's brought even more people with her. She could kill us all with ease. Hurry, we have to run before it's too late." The others quickly spotted Lu Fan, who was standing nearby as well. "And what about that young man? The one from the Dragon Nation? Is he part of their gang too?" "Run, everyone! That guy is part of their group as well. If we don't run now, every single one of us will be killed." Observing their panicked reactions, Lu Fan smiled faintly to himself. "It seems the people of the southern region have mistakenly assumed that I am part of this gang as well. The moment they saw me, they immediately turned and fled." His gaze shifted toward Kongji, and if they are calling that girl a monster, then she must truly be a terrifying figure. At that very moment, two men standing beside Kongji stepped forward. "Mistress," one of them said in a cold voice, "that southern dog ambushed our Heavenly Dragon Gang earlier. Today we must hunt him down and kill him." The second man respectfully added, "Mistress, shall we proceed? What are your orders? Shall we finish him off?" However, Kongji's face remained devoid of any expression. In a calm and measured voice, she replied, "There is no need to chase them. I will handle everything right here. They must pay the price for what they have done. Right here, right now." The moment those words left his lips, he activated a mysterious power. Suddenly, right before everyone's eyes, a massive, tsunami-like wave rose up. A terrifying wall of water surged rapidly toward the sky. The instant people saw it, they were plunged into utter panic. A young man standing at the back froze on the spot, simply staring wide-eyed at the terrifying spectacle unfolding before him. Another man shouted at him frantically, "Do you want to die? Stop gawking and run! Get out of here fast, or we'll all be killed!" Just then, Kongji's cold voice rang out across the battlefield. "Do you really think you can escape from me?" The very next moment, a colossal wave surged forward with overwhelming force, instantly engulfing everyone who stood in its path. Screams of terror filled the air. "Help us! Please save us! We don't want to die! Have mercy on us!" But just moments later, every single one of them was swallowed up by that catastrophic flood. As the water slowly receded, silence once again settled over the surroundings. Meanwhile, stepping calmly onto dry ground, Lu Fan surveyed the scene around him. Then he frowned slightly and muttered, "Good grief! What kind of pathetic technique was that? You guys died so easily, and all because of a little bit of water? To think that all of you, after bragging so much about your strength, ended up dying simply because of water." Lu Fan shook his head slightly in disappointment. "How ridiculous!" Meanwhile, not far away, Kongji and the members of her gang were quietly discussing him amongst themselves. Turning toward one of her subordinates, the so-called monster calmly asked, "You know almost everyone in the South Court? Tell me, who is that man?" The man carefully observed Lu Fan before replying, "Sister, I'm familiar with the people from that region, but strangely enough, I don't recognize him at all." His expression became serious. "That means he definitely isn't from the South Black part. He must have come from somewhere else." At that moment, an elderly man standing nearby suddenly interrupted the conversation. If he's not from the South Court, the old man said thoughtfully, then he isn't part of the Southern gang either. Hearing that, Kongji narrowed her eyes slightly. In that case, he can only be from the Southern nation. The moment these words were spoken, everyone's gaze immediately shifted toward Lu Fan. Kongji quietly stared at him for several seconds before muttering under her breath, "A fearless Southerner. How truly fearless!" The so-called monster, Kongji quietly muttered. "He isn't afraid of us. And he hasn't even tried to run." Her eyes narrowed slightly as she continued staring at Lu Fan. Then, in a cold voice, she gave a direct order. "Kill him immediately." The moment the command was issued, the two men beside her instantly rushed toward Lu Fan. Their killing intent exploded outward as they closed the distance rapidly. One of them sneered arrogantly, "Your death is already guaranteed. No one can save you from us." The other laughed viciously. "You should have run while you still had the chance." Watching them charge forward, Lu Fan smiled faintly to himself. "The people from the South believe I'm allied with these gangs, and these idiots think I belong to the Southern nation. This situation is truly absurd." However, the moment the two attackers moved close enough to clearly see Lu Fan's wings, fear suddenly appeared in their eyes. Their instincts immediately warned them this was no ordinary human. One of them instantly shouted toward Kongji, "Mistress, be careful! This man isn't normal!" But the second man simply scoffed in disdain. "Oh, spare me! I know exactly how capable the people of the Southern nation really are." Hearing those words, Lu Fan's expression finally turned cold. A dangerous aura slowly spread from his body as he fixed his gaze directly on the arrogant man. Then he spoke in a chilling voice. "In that case, it looks like I should silence you first." However, Lu Fan never intended to kill them. He merely wanted to frighten them. At that exact moment, he activated a terrifying ability known as Weed Out the Weak. The true horror of this power lay in its overwhelming amplification of killing intent. The instant it was unleashed, a violent invisible shockwave exploded outward, heavily damaging every nearby enemy while hurling them backward with brutal force. Even worse, the attack completely ignored defensive abilities. And the greater the difference in attributes between Lu Fan and his opponents, the more devastating the damage became. The moment the two attackers were caught within the blast, both of them were sent flying through the air instantly. Their expressions twisted in terror as they lost all control over their bodies. Seeing this, one of the gang members screamed in panic, "Hey, what are you doing? Master Ching and Master Ju were blown away!" Chaos instantly spread among the group. Meanwhile, Kongji frowned sharply before shouting, "Don't panic! I'll handle this myself!" But before anyone could react, Lu Fan suddenly disappeared from his original position. The next second, he appeared directly behind Kongji. A cold blade instantly stopped at her throat, placing her completely at his mercy. One of the soldiers standing behind them suddenly shouted in panic, "Hey, that guy took the boss hostage! How is this even possible? He was standing right in front of us just a second ago." Meanwhile, Lu Fan calmly spoke while keeping his blade at Kongji's throat. "I am Lu Fan, the flame guardian who fought against the ancient god." His voice remained completely steady. "I am not your enemy." The moment she heard his name, Kongji's expression changed slightly. "I know who Lu Fan is," she immediately replied. Then she raised her hand and ordered all of her subordinates to lower their weapons at once. However, even after doing that, she continued staring directly at him with suspicion in her eyes. "You certainly look powerful," she admitted calmly. "But you claim to have fought an ancient god. What proof do you have that you're truly Lu Fan?" Hearing that, Lu Fan finally realized something. Longnan province was just as isolated as the western frontier. Although many people had heard his name, very few actually knew what he looked like. Without saying another word, he slowly took out a medal before holding it forward. "Take a look," he said quietly. The moment Kongji saw the medal, her eyes widened instantly. Shock completely overtook her expression. Then, without hesitation, she immediately bowed respectfully. "Are you truly Lu Fan?" she asked in disbelief. "Please forgive us. We failed to recognize your greatness." Her voice carried genuine respect now. "We never imagined that we would one day meet the legendary dragon tamer Lu Fan in person." At the same time, the soldiers who had accompanied their leader finally understood everything. One of them muttered bitterly, "No wonder he defeated all of us in a single move." Lu Fan placed a hand on his head, smiled, and remarked, "The name Dragon Manor does sound a bit old-fashioned." The people present began murmuring amongst themselves, "Didn't I tell you that the name sounds a bit odd whenever I introduce it?" The old boss gave it that name, and the mistress wanted to change it. Just then she stepped forward. Tilting her head slightly, she asked, "Weren't you sent from the capital to deal with the monster menace? Or what is your purpose in coming here?" Lu replied, "I did head north, but to fight the old god, I must first complete my 4th advancement. My master told me that the items I require are located deep within the Longnam border region.